It's April 22nd. This is CTV at 6. Here's what's making news tonight. St. John police make an arrest in the killing of a woman 5 years ago. Warmer weather is bringing more tents back to a Dartmouth encampment.
Cool and showery weather ahead Thursday. Temperatures start to trend up in the extended forecast.
Live from our Maritimes News Center, this is CTV News at 6. Here is Todd Battis.
Good evening. We begin tonight in St. John, where police have made a trio of arrests in connection to a death of a woman in that city 5 years ago. A 39-year-old has been charged with manslaughter, while two others are facing several charges, including improperly interfering with human remains. CTV's Avery McRae reports.
Nearly 5 years after a 27-year-old woman was found dead in St. John's North End, the city's police force has a break in the case.
As a result of a lengthy and complex investigation that was led by the St. John Police Major Crime Unit, 3 arrests have been made in relation to the death of Courtney McKenzie.
McKenzie was reported missing on May 8, 2021, with her body being found a few days later on May 11th at a Victoria Street home. In the years to follow, the file saw few updates, except for a pair of arrests in April of 2023, when a 34-year-old woman and a 36-year-old man were taken into custody and later released. Then yesterday, police announced they had arrested and charged 39-year-old Terrence Keelaher on a number of offenses related to Mackenzie's death, including manslaughter, kidnapping, forcible confinement, and assault. A 40-year-old man was also arrested for being an accessory after the fact and for improperly interfering with human remains. And today, police announced a 37-year-old woman, the same one who was arrested 3 years ago, is facing charges including improperly interfering with human remains in relation to Mackenzie's death.
These investigations are complex, they are lengthy, waiting for evidence to come back, tying up some loose ends, making sure that everything is done very thoroughly. And then there's consultations with the Crown to review the charges, to review the file.
Reporters asked police a number of questions, including the cause of Mackenzie's death, which Fowler declined to answer, citing the ongoing investigation and court proceedings. When asked if more arrests are expected as it relates to the death investigation of Courtney McKenzie, police say not at this time. Avery McRae, CTV News, St. John.
If you were anywhere in downtown Halifax or even near it this afternoon, chances are you saw it. It was hard to miss. A billowing cloud of black smoke stretching across the north end of the city, drifting all the way to the waterfront. The smoke came from a fire at a construction site on Cogswell Street at the edge of downtown. Building materials sitting between a new high-rise and a house went up in flames after the noon hour. That sparked evacuations and a major response from Halifax Fire. Crews were responding to other calls when the alarm came in. About 10 fire trucks and supporting units responded and helped out about a dozen people from the site.
The thing with the smoke, it was the type of material. So when you get a lot of construction debris, a lot of it's petroleum-based, which gives off that heavy black smoke. So that's what we encountered when we arrived.
No injuries were reported. Cogswell Street was closed while crews investigated the cause. By late this afternoon, workers were back inside and the smoke had dissipated. There's no word on the level of damage to that new apartment building. Some former New Brunswick mayors are opening up about personal attacks and threats they faced on the job. It's a growing problem, and with local elections looming, they fear it's keeping good people from running for office. Here's CTV's Nick Moore.
It's heavy.
It's a candid discussion about when political scrutiny crosses a line of civility in a podcast hosted by former St. John Mayor Don Darling and including former Moncton Mayor Don Arnold, former Fredericton Mayor Michael Bryan, and outgoing Miramichi Mayor Adam Lorden.
My son was physically assaulted twice. I got lots of death threats, lots of anonymous accounts, followed down alleys.
There was a man in jail, I don't know if he still is, for threatening my life. I got 2,500 life-threatening emails in a 24-hour period once.
Darling posted the discussion about the role of being a mayor in New Brunswick on Monday, with the segment on personal attacks getting a reaction.
Most of it is very supportive, but I've been, quite frankly,
reminded or a bit shocked at some of the responses that we've seen.
Part of the conversation tried to pinpoint when political discourse took a turn.
Things changed so drastically from 2001 to 2021. It was like night and day on what the public expected of you for communications.
I would just say that the last 5 years have been very, very different. I think COVID changed a lot of things for a lot of people.
The discussion happening ahead of a municipal election in New Brunswick on May 11th.
I talked to a dozen people encouraging them to offer, and nobody wanted to touch it with a 10-foot pole. Are you nuts? You think I want to sign up for that?
I think there's probably a lot of people who are thinking twice about this now.
Jamie Gillies is with the Department of Communications and Public Policy at St. Thomas University and agreed with the four mayors who blamed a decline in local coverage of council meetings for mis- and disinformation taking over social media.
And that's where you see people getting upset about what's going on in their city. And so they're the front line in terms of complaints, concerns, and then those become more than that. It's mayors and councils that I think face the wrath the most.
A wrath that, according to these politicians, should be a concern for everybody. Nick Moore, CTV News, St. John.
There's a live look right now, and isn't it pretty, of Halifax Harbour, where it's currently 4 degrees, and that golden hour settling in as we bring in Kaylin Mitchell to take a look at some still sunny conditions, but boy, is it chilly.
Yeah, the view there in Halifax certainly living up to that name, golden hour. But yeah, it's cool around the Maritimes, and it was another cold start to the day. Here's a look at some morning low temperatures in the region, and you can see that across much of the Maritimes, there were a few to several degrees below the freezing mark. And we did have some record-setting low temperatures today, including at St. Stephen in New Brunswick. It's not in the map, but Doketown in New Brunswick as well had a record low this morning. And Charlottetown at Prince Edward Island with a record low of around -7. And as we take a look at conditions now, as we're heading into this evening, we are seeing some cloud cover increase from the west. It's been increasing throughout the day for the province of New Brunswick. Underneath the cloud cover, there are some spotty showers for that province. And as temperatures get a little bit cooler later tonight, that chance of showers in New Brunswick will turn over to a chance of a shower or flurry, and some showery conditions in the forecast for the Maritimes tomorrow, potentially with some flurries mixed in as a little trough of low pressure makes its way in from the west. So yes, you may spot a few snowflakes in the region coming up on Thursday, but any accumulation looks like it's going to be quite limited. The highest chance of seeing some snow showers in the morning will be in western areas of New Brunswick and the west of Nova Scotia. If there is any accumulation, it'll likely be on surfaces such as like the cold car roofs first thing in the morning, or maybe some tree branches. But temperatures are forecast to be above zero moving into and through Thursday afternoon, so it should be melting away. We'll talk more about that and what's coming up in behind it as we approach the weekend, Todd, when I'm back a little bit later on.
Very good. We'll see you in about 15 minutes for that. Tents are popping up at an encampment site in Dartmouth. The warmer weather has seen the site grow in size already, though the city insists that's not necessarily the case. CTV's Emma Convey spoke with people living there.
PJ McKay has been living at this encampment in Dartmouth for the past 3 years. She says it was once a community to her. Now it's pure survival.
Pretty stressful. There's days that you can relax, but there's days you hear a lot of fighting, arguing.
The Green Road location is one of HRM's 2 designated encampment sites. Their winter months here are quieter, but now McKay tends to see movement.
Around this time of the year, every year, we get an increase of tents.
She says many of those living here are returning from last year, but she's seen a few new faces too. The Halifax Regional Municipality says the numbers haven't changed much and are lower than a few weeks ago. They claim more people are turning to indoor options. Although Councillor Tony Mancini says as the temperatures warm up, it tends to be the opposite.
They just have had bad experiences in some of the shelters. It could be a mental health issue, it could be a safety issue. There are a variety of reasons. And so they would prefer to be in a tent versus in one of the designated shelters.
The municipality's desire is to eventually close encampments. Mancini says he's on board as long as people have a place to go.
The pallet shelter in my district that is well received. A lot of concerns by the community moving in that they were worried about it, but it turns out for the most part been really good.
But he, like others, would like to see more affordable housing, something Nicholas DeWolf agrees with. After being homeless for the past 5 years, he was living in a tiny home in Sackville, but has since been kicked out. He's now moving to the Bridge Shelter.
The problems that go on in these places it's horrible and it's sad. It's nothing but mostly drug enabling.
He says he could end up at this encampment and is hoping things will get better.
I just want to feel like a normal citizen, and I want people to have a better chance.
Emma Convey, CTV News, Dartmouth.
Some changes are coming to tourist areas in New Brunswick. The province is offering to extend the tourism season at one of New Brunswick's most popular spots. Parley Beach near Shediac will have its season pushed back to mid-October. It's part of the province's plan to increase tourism revenue by keeping some places open longer. The Village Historique Acadien is another site that will see more days. About $100,000 has been allocated to extend the season at Parley Beach Provincial Park. The news is not so good for another tourist site along the Bay of Fundy. The board of directors of Cape Enrage Interpretive Centre announced today the site will not reopen this season. The board is blaming the lack of a formal operating contract from the New Brunswick government, as well as cuts to funding. The attraction near Alma is popular for zip line and cliff rappelling, and it has welcomed thousands of visitors for several summers. A Nova Scotia woman felt she had no choice but to leave the country to seek medical care while she suffered in pain waiting for treatment here. Opposition politicians want the province to create a women's health strategy. Details now from CTV's Jesse Thomas.
Cassidy Walker shared her emotional and painful medical story with the hopes to shine a light on some of the challenges women face when trying to access timely medical and gynecological care.
Yeah, I felt hopeless. I felt like there was no escape from the pain.
Since 2019, Walker says she's been waiting to see a gynecological specialist to seek care for what she described as extreme pelvic pain from endometriosis. In 2023, Walker was tired of waiting and decided to seek surgical care across the border in Maine, paying more than $50,000 out of pocket.
Everyone who needs this surgery should be able to get it in Nova Scotia. No one should have to pay tens of thousands of dollars to get treatment, and women shouldn't be stuck on a wait list because there aren't enough resources.
Opposition leader Claudia Chender held a press conference with Walker today to draw attention to the issue. The NDP is calling on the Houston government to develop a women's health strategy.
Healthcare issues facing women and gender diverse people are just not being addressed. And so the promise to fix healthcare there's not even an attempt to keep that promise when it comes to the most serious conditions facing half of our population.
Liberal leader Ian Rankin agrees with the call for a women's health strategy. The Liberals highlighted several health care gaps facing women that need attention, like covering the costs of pelvic floor therapy.
Instead of paying out of pocket $150, we believe that's essential care that the government should be providing.
Although Walker is feeling better following surgery, she's still frustrated. She's had to seek care in the U.S. and pay out of pocket. The Halifax resident is using her voice so others won't have to go the same route.
My experience in the healthcare system here has been extremely difficult, with long waits and no answers.
The Department of Health and Wellness declined our interview request, but in a statement, Minister Michelle Thompson said a separate healthcare strategy isn't necessarily required, saying their Action for Health plan is working to improve healthcare for all Nova Scotians. Jesse Thomas, CTV News, Halifax.
Now, just after 6:30, we'll speak with a physician about a maritime-wide survey being conducted by the IWK on women's health, and there's more on the subject at our website, ctvnewsatlantic.ca. PEI has sold a lot of its American alcohol, and food banks are reaping the benefits. The province is donating $600,000 to organizations like the Salvation Army of Charlottetown and Summerside and the Montague Food Bank. The money comes from the sale of American booze that was pulled off liquor store shelves to protest U.S. tariffs. Several other provinces have been doing the same thing. Nurses will be working quite soon in every one of New Brunswick's special care homes. As CTV's Derek Haggett reports, it's hoped the move will ease pressure on the healthcare system.
A program providing healthcare services for people who live at home or a special care or nursing facility has been expanded. The extramural program provides access to nursing and clinical support for seniors and people with disabilities. It's now available to all 424 special care homes in the province.
This means that people are going to be able to get more timely access to care, and they're going to get care close to home, or at home in these cases.
A wide range of clinical services from nurses will reduce the pressure on the healthcare system.
Is the extramural program and the team they have with their nurses, instead of the home here having to take a patient and transport them to a doctor's office, the EMP service can come and support that client in the home.
Now, more than 7,000 New Brunswickers are getting nursing care where they live and not in a hospital bed.
People can have very complex care needs, either in their own home or in our special care homes. And prior to this, we were doing great, we were strong, but now we have this secret sauce available in our homes that we didn't have before.
It means that if they needed a care plan with other members of other services, it means that they have that. It also means, which is important, that they also have access to a primary care provider.
The province says it wants seniors to live a full, healthy life while remaining independent as possible and close to loved ones. Derek Haggett, CTV News, Salisbury, New Brunswick.
A showdown is building in Nova Scotia between the province, intent on moving ahead with its plan to extract natural resources, and conservationists who oppose some of the projects. CTV's Callum Smith looks at what's being done on both sides.
Conservationists are fighting Nova Scotia's urge to drill and mine. They feel blindsided by the resource extraction agenda. The government argues it's been blindsided by the U.S. trade situation and Iran war, which has spiked prices, and demands the province be less reliant on foreign energy. No frack! No frack! It all came to a head at an information session in Windsor this week, with opposition shouting down the idea of onshore gas development or hydraulic fracturing.
Welcome to the next few years. These issues will continue to be front and center for Nova Scotia and Nova Scotians.
Premier Tim Houston pushed back online, insisting resource development is needed for good jobs and to pay for services like health care. Meanwhile, the Ecology Action Centre released its own survey results on Earth Day, showing the majority of respondents want more land protected.
It's important for the public and for the province to know that there is strong public support for them to move forward on their long-standing and legally binding protected areas commitments to reach 20% by 2030.
Government numbers show 15% is protected. Raymond Plord says many respondents to the survey are in rural areas where resource development is hot on the mind of government.
The least that they can do is sincerely consult and listen to the public and what they have to say.
Political science professor Tom Urbaniak agrees the government needs to garner more support.
It is hard work to sort of go into communities, explain what you have in mind, share the research and expertise, patiently build a collaborative approach with First Nations communities. I'm not seeing a lot of that happening.
He expects more demonstrations, debate, and delays to the province's plan. Callum Smith, CTV News, Halifax.
Still ahead, it's going to be cold and cloudy. We'll get details of the full forecast. But next, the U.S. is extending the ceasefire with Iran. We'll have the...
We're learning new details about how the potential negotiations between the U.S. and Iran fell apart in the hours before the ceasefire was set to expire. I'm Christiane Cordero in Washington with the latest coming up.
The White House is indefinitely extending the ceasefire with Iran on a day when Iran fired on 3 ships in the Strait of Hormuz. We get the latest from ABC's Christiane Cordero.
Today, new details about how potential negotiations between the U.S. and Iran fell apart in the final hours before the ceasefire was extended. Multiple sources tell ABC News the U.S. sent Iran a list of broad points they hoped Iran would agree to ahead of in-person negotiations. And as time ran out yesterday, the administration didn't get a response.
The president is not setting a deadline with this ceasefire right now, but this war has already gone on longer than he said it would initially. How long should Americans be prepared for this war to go on?
Look, I think President Trump ultimately will dictate the timeline, and he will do so when he feels is in the best interest of the United States and the American people.
A fifth of the world's global oil supply passes through the Strait of Hormuz, and analysts say gas prices will not come down until traffic resumes as normal. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent today dismissed concerns about the long-term effects.
I think the conflict will end. I think gasoline prices will come back to where they were, or perhaps lower, as they did.
But the tension is only escalating at sea as both the U.S. and Iran assert control over the Strait of Hormuz. Iran firing on 3 ships today, saying it seized 2 of them. The U.S. naval blockade is targeting Iran's economy, preventing ships from entering and leaving Iranian ports.
We are completely strangling their economy through this blockade.
Iran's president on social media today blasted what he called hypocritical empty talk and contradiction, insisting the regime welcomes good faith dialogue. Christiane Cordero, ABC News, Washington.
Get the Maritime's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
What do you do when your child asks you to mail a picture she drew for the king? Well, you start with finding an address for Buckingham Palace, and then you wait. That's what one family in Kitchener, Ontario did. CTV's Karis Mapp has the story.
Grace Connell, like many 5-year-olds, loves to create art and draws inspiration from the world around her.
I just think of something what I could draw and then I draw it on a paper.
So when the royal family piqued her interest, she began her research.
I was asking Mom how I wanted to know how old they were, and then I knew, but when I went to school the next day, my friend was there, and I drew something with her.
With hopes of the picture making it overseas to King Charles himself.
It was actually a drawing of a king and queen and princess that she sent. I didn't take a picture or anything of it because I honestly didn't think we'd get anything back. So I just addressed it to Buckingham Palace and put 6 stamps on it and sent it with our home address.
Sent at the end of February, Grace would then ask her family to check the mailbox every week to see if she got a reply.
After a few weeks, I'd thought maybe I should, use ChatGPT or something to draw up a letter and mail it to her on behalf.
An idea that turned out to be unnecessary.
She had asked to check the mail one more time, which reminded me I hadn't sent the letter. When we went to the mailbox, and it was Sunday, it was April, right after Easter, I think, and we went to the mailbox with my nephew, and sure enough, there was a letter addressed from the Queen and King, their correspondence, Buckingham Palace, addressed to Grace.
The Queen and King!
A personalized letter from the head of royal correspondence, thanking the young girl on behalf of the royal family. According to Buckingham Palace's website, the king is shown almost all of the letters he receives and takes a keen interest in hearing from the public.
The fact that it noted her splendid drawing and that the king passed on his warmest wishes was unbelievably touching for her and for us.
Meanwhile, Grace says her favorite part has been her family's reaction.
Like being proud of me.
Karis Mapp, CTV News, Kitchener.
Well done. Up next, Kalen has a naughty word in his late April forecast. Flurries. They'll come with some showers tomorrow. Details after this. One beautiful harbor vista earlier in the show, Kalen, and another one, Lunenburg. 5 degrees at a beautiful time of day.
That's a nice scene there at Lunenburg. A little bit of the cool side. Temperature is going to be getting a little bit chillier this evening and tonight. And some of that cloud cover that we see above Lunenburg, that's mostly high cloud cover now. We are going to see some cloud cover increase around the region as we make our way through tonight.
All right.
Now, you mentioned before the break, do have some flurries in the forecast for tomorrow. Mixed in with some showers. Not expecting a lot of accumulation out of that. And we are not the only part of the country seeing some snow. And in fact, we might be thankful that we're only expecting some flurries in the forecast,
yes,
because
judging by that map,
yeah, so
we don't want to be there.
So what I've got here on the map, the grays and the whites, represents the potential for some snowfall and some snowfall accumulation. And the more accumulation is shown through the brighter grays and the brighter whites over the next 2 days around parts of the country. And you can see there's a bullseye set up right around northern areas of Saskatchewan and into northern areas of Manitoba. And that's where there's a fresh round of both some snowfall and some winter storm warnings in effect, because some of the overall snowfall totals for parts of the northern Saskatchewan and parts of northern Manitoba moving not only through tonight, through Thursday, but into the start of the weekend. Overall, some of those totals could approach a range of between 20 and 50 centimeters of snow. The temperatures are coming down for other parts of the prairies as well. Edmonton is already sitting at 6 degrees. Calgary is down to around 9. Regina and Winnipeg are still warm, sitting at 19 and 23 degrees, but their temperature is going to be falling here over the next couple of days as well. It's milder in southern Ontario, sitting at 22 degrees there, 17 at Windsor, that is, 17 at Toronto and Ottawa, 15 at Montreal, and then of course cooler here in the Maritimes, 8 at Fredericton, 7 at Halifax, and 2 at Charlottetown, 1 at St. John's in Newfoundland, and parts of Newfoundland and Labrador have been, since yesterday, contending with a mixture of some freezing rain and some snow as well, and some more freezing rain and snow expected for parts of Labrador for tomorrow. Taking a look at our forecast timeline for cloud cover and precipitation back here in the Maritimes. With the cloud cover increasing for New Brunswick, underneath it there is a chance of some isolated showers this evening, and then maybe a chance of a shower or flurry overnight as temperatures start to really cool off. Other parts of the Maritimes, including Prince Edward Island and Nova Scotia, continue to see the cloud cover increase. And then as the trough of low pressure arrives in western parts of the region for Thursday morning, this is when some showers mixed with some snow showers are going to become more widespread for western areas of New Brunswick and southwestern areas of Nova Scotia. Now, again, given the time of the year, it's late April, accumulation is unlikely for a lot of surfaces, especially paved surfaces. They tend to hold a little bit more of the spring sunshine that we've had, including for today. However, you may see some accumulation on other surfaces, such as like tree branches, for example, maybe a bit on lawns, the rails on decks, and maybe the roofs, cold car roofs as well. Now, temperature's going to be above 0 for tomorrow, so there'll be a lot of melt of that snow. And by the time we get to the afternoon, in most cases, it should have switched over to just some showery conditions, and the showers actually a little bit more spotty in their coverage for parts of the Maritimes, eastern New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, and eastern areas of Nova Scotia. Now, winds in the forecast for tomorrow, with that weather system moving to the south of us, going to be a little bit variable in direction. Out of the northeast and east for New Brunswick, out of the northeast for Prince Edward Island and eastern areas of Nova Scotia, but then more out of the south and southeast for western areas of Nova Scotia, down around the Bay of Fundy coastline. They'll be breezy by our standards here in the Maritimes, with some gusts between 20 and 40 kilometers per hour. Now, the chilliest temperatures for tonight will be in eastern parts of the region, where some of the lows will fall into a range around -2 to -6. And then for western parts of the Maritimes tonight, most of the low temperatures between 0 and 2 degrees. Highs in the forecast for tomorrow in the north of New Brunswick, up between 5 and 8 degrees, with central and southern parts of the province with high temperatures, mostly between 5 and 7 for Campobello and 3 at Grand Manan. Prince Edward Island for tomorrow with high temperatures between 5 and 7 degrees. In Cape Breton, high temperatures between 4 and 8 degrees, coolest in Inverness County. High temperatures between 5 and 8 degrees for the eastern shore and north shore of Nova Scotia. 8 for Amherst, 8 for Truro, 6 degrees for the city centers Halifax and Dartmouth. In the Annapolis Valley tomorrow, highs near 7. 5 for Digby, and on the south shore and the southwest of Nova Scotia, most of the high temperatures between 4 and 6. Taking a look at the 7-day forecast coming up for New Brunswick, further chance of some showers, but again, pretty spotty in their coverage, and then fair weather conditions in the weekend ahead. And finally, it looks like temperatures will be approaching seasonable, maybe even just a little bit above, by the end of the weekend and through the start of next week. Chance of flurries on Wednesday. For Nova Scotia in the outlook, we still have a chance of showers on Friday, then a mix of sun and cloud. Temperatures still cool to start the weekend. Cloudy periods for Sunday, but then a mix of sun and cloud on Monday. And temperatures will have come up a few degrees by that point in time. The pool of cooler air sitting over top of the Maritimes right now looks like it will have shifted out over the North Atlantic at that point, and that'll allow for some recovery in our temperatures. Prince Edward Island in the forecast, we've got a chance of showers on Friday. It's followed by a mix of sun and cloud. Somewhat still cooler temperatures through the weekend, but then that recovery in temperatures, some high temperatures up towards the low teens through the start of next week. Todd.
It'd just be nice to turn off the furnace.
Yeah, sure.
We'll see you later in the show. Thank you. Next, a survey wants to hear from Maritimers on improving women's health. Stay with us.
Okay, so we're back at it tomorrow. Virgin Radio's 5K a day. Chance to win $5,000 daily.
Those start with us after 7 a.m.
And we have tickets to Andrew Schultz at the Great Outdoors Comedy Festival. Good luck.
Welcome back. Outcomes in women's health can vary from province to province, community to community even. A survey is asking people across the Maritimes to help, well, offer some answers and gaps, fill in the gaps in some research that's being done in women's health. Dr. Justine Dahl is with the IWK and she joins us. She's intimately involved in this research work. It's good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Simplest question I get is, what are you hoping to find out?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're currently conducting a study where we're seeking input from Women Plus, clinicians, researchers, and just community members to help us identify the most important research gaps that should be prioritized in order to improve Women Plus health outcomes. So the purpose of this study is really to make sure that decisions about women's health research are guided by what the community identifies as the most urgent needs, not just what's traditionally funded or studied.
Can you identify some of those gaps for us? What do you mean when you say gaps?
Yeah, so this can range on any kind of questions as it relates to Women Plus health. So how do we access care around perimenopause? How do we better support people who are experiencing a mental health crisis? So we're really looking at a wide range of health concerns because we know that the most important questions about women's health in the Maritimes still haven't been properly studied.
We just heard from a woman earlier in the show who left the country for treatment while she sat on a wait list here in the Maritimes. In your work, do you hear that fairly often? Is that common?
Yes, I think that accessing care in a timely manner is something that I imagine will come up in the survey of that one of the things that people want to know is how can we reduce the wait times for some of these things so we don't have to wait as long to get diagnoses and treatments.
Talking about specialists for the most part, getting in to see a specialist?
Yes, it could be a specialist. It could be just getting access to a family doctor. There's a lot of areas in women's health that could be impacted in different ways in terms of access to care. So we're really hoping to get feedback from people to help us identify the issues that they face that we could hopefully address with more targeted research as it relates to Women Plus health.
Are women avoiding care because of things they may hear from family members, from others who may have run into situations where they've had long waits, etc.?
That's a good question. I'm not quite sure. Hopefully with the research, we'll have some better answers to kind of these experiences and how we can better ensure that people have the right care with the right research evidence to back that up.
Right. There's certainly risks, no doubt, associated with any time you put something off.
Yes, correct.
How does it, you know, when you look at this, how does it impact the broader society? I mean, we're talking specifically about women's health here, but we know that extends to families and beyond.
Yeah, so too often we know that research priorities kind of are decided without the input from the people most impacted. And so we really want to change that. So we really want to hear from not only women who experience these health concerns, but also their partners and people who love them, because they're also impacted when women's health is impacted. So we want to make sure that research priorities really reflect the community experience of health for both Women Plus and their partners and family members.
Will the results help shape, or maybe it brings up new questions, but does it help shape your research in terms of areas you might then proceed into?
Yes, that's exactly the hope from this research is in the end, we'll hopefully have around a top 10 list of the top priorities, as well as all the other priorities that we can address once we address the top 10. So it really will guide what we focus on in the future. And we can bring this to funders and policymakers saying that this is a research need, that we really need to focus this so we can improve care for Women Plus plus health across the Maritime provinces.
We know that the IWK Foundation did a survey last year where it asked questions about women's health, and again, gaps that people may be experiencing. Will these two studies or surveys mirror each other?
I think so. So the IWK Foundation survey really offered an unfiltered, deeply personal look at how women experience health and what it means for women to manage their health in the Maritime today. And they found that 70% of women who completed the survey found that the current system doesn't really meet their needs. And so by following up on that care experience, we're able to ask people to help us identify what areas that where those gaps existed so that we can better improve our research and thereby care outcomes in the future. They also identified a top 6 list of areas that women really identified as their health focus, including things like menopause and perimenopause, mental health, and obesity and weight management were kind of the top 3. And I'm anticipating that our findings will probably map onto some of those priority areas that have been already identified in a more targeted way that we can answer with research.
Well, look, before we let you go, I have to ask you, how can people get involved?
Yeah, so anybody who wants to participate can visit maritimewomenshealth.com, and it'll take them to a landing page where they can choose to complete the survey in either French or English.
All right. Dr. Justine Dahl, thank you very much for that. We certainly appreciate it, and hopefully we can help drive some respondents to your survey.
Yes, thank you so much.
We'll take a break. We'll be back with much more of your newscast. Turning to health and medical news, and this is quite something. Lawmakers in the United Kingdom have passed a new law that will ban children aged 17 and under from buying cigarettes for their entire life. CTV's Amanda Debison has the details in the midweek edition of The Lifeline.
Across the pond, both chambers of Britain's Parliament have approved a bill that would ban children aged 17 and under from buying cigarettes during their lifetime.
It is a landmark bill, my lords. It will create a smoke-free generation. It is, in fact, the biggest public health intervention in a generation, and I can assure all noble lords it will save lives.
The tobacco and vaping bill will stop anyone born after January 1st, 2009 from taking up smoking legally. Once it receives royal assent, it will also give the government powers to ban smoking in outdoor spaces like playgrounds and outside schools and hospitals. The new law is part of a series of measures aimed at combating the health effects from smoking, one of the leading causes of preventable death in the UK. Excessive naps could be a warning sign of underlying health conditions for older adults. That's according to new research published in JAMA Network Open. The study found that longer and more frequent naps in adults 56 and older were connected to higher all-cause mortality. Researchers said that morning naps in particular are a marker of increased mortality risk late in life. While naps can help you recharge, researchers warn that excessive daytime napping in old age is linked to a wide range of health issues. With health and medical news, I'm Amanda Debison for The Lifeline.
We're on the scene tonight with a new book out this week about Maine's most famous local, Stephen King. The book provides an inside look at King's work like we've never seen before, with material from his own private archives. Grace Bradley of WABI-TV spoke with the author.
Monsters in the Archives, it really came out of this kismet kind of situation.
As author Caroline Bix recalls, she was 4 years into her position as Stephen E. King Chair of Literature at the University of Maine when she received an unexpected call from King himself.
And we had just such a lovely conversation about UMaine. Writing, when I had a sabbatical coming up a year later, I felt that I could ask him and Tabitha, his wife, if I could go into their private archives, which had just been collected and attached to their iconic home in Bangor. And I said, well, how about if you let me in there? Would you be okay with that?
From 2022 to 2023, Bix uncovered the building blocks that would become King's most iconic works.
The Night Shift, The Shining, Carrie, Salem's Lot, and Pet Sematary. It's a treasure trove in the archives of first drafts, marginalia in King's handwriting, back and forth between him and his copy editor. In this first draft, it's called Jeremiah's Lot.
You can see the trajectory from him as a student.
And this is where he published a few of his stories that eventually would become part of Night Shift. This is an early version of Night Surf. That's when I knew this was going to be a book about Stephen King, the craftsman. Building suspense is not easy, and it's different from like a slasher film that's like, ah! It was really a revelation to be able to like hold the first draft and see the little micro changes he was making to the story, and to be able to bring my English professor trained eye to it, along with my scared little kid self. He really has a universal appeal because he knows how to tap into universal fears. Using monsters as a way to perhaps allow us to face those horrible human truths that connect us. There's something kind of oddly hopeful about it, even though it's terrifying.
That story from our friends in Bangor. We're going to take a time out with what's on CTV tonight.
Mornings with Aaron and Peter.
Move family, make time to spend every morning with us from 5:30 to 10.
We promise to start your day with a smile and feeling great about what's ahead.
In our market report, the Dow Jones closed the trading day up 340 points. There's some bad news for Canadian travelers. More flights are being canceled because of the high cost of fuel. B&M Bloomberg's Marla Fernandez explains.
This time it's Air Transat scaling back, cutting hundreds of flights from its schedule. From May to October, flights will be reduced by 6%. That means fewer flights to Europe and the Caribbean, including Cuba. The company CEO says there is an exceptional environment affecting the entire sector. Both Air Canada and WestJet have already done the same. Here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar barely changed at 73.14. West Texas Intermediate up over $3 to 92.56. Western Canadian Select up over $2 to 70.78. And the TSX gained 146 points today. Those are your business headlines. I'm Marla Fernandez.
All right, Kayla, we're going to have to park the private jet. No more flying between the studio and the weather deck.
Yeah, like that was ever an option anyways, Todd. It's nice out here at the moment. It's a little cool and breezy. Our viewer picture for tonight takes us to Amherst, Nova Scotia. It's one of my favorite effects here. These are crepuscular rays, and that's basically when the sun breaks through gaps in the clouds, and it creates sort of that banded sunlight effect. And this was sent in by Jared Burbine. I want to thank Jared very much for sending that in. And for Amherst for tomorrow, it's kind of a showery day. Basically a chance of a shower or flurry throughout the day. The high temperature getting up to around 8 degrees. I mentioned flurries because in the morning hours, especially for western areas of New Brunswick and the west of Nova Scotia, any rain showers present could also be in the form of some snow showers as temperatures aloft of the Maritimes remain colder. Morning temperatures mostly ranging from a few degrees below to a few degrees above the freezing mark. In the afternoon, still a chance of some showers around the Maritimes, and the high temperatures coming up between 4 and 8 degrees. Let's find out what's coming up on your Morning Atlantic.
Thursday on Your Morning Atlantic, we head back to Fromville. Yes, we'll bring you part 2 of Latavia's exclusive visit to the set of the Cult Horror series, shot right here in Nova Scotia. Start your morning with us Thursday on Your Morning Atlantic on CTV2 and Crave.
Finally tonight, a chance to own a piece of rock and roll history. More than 400 items are being offered in Prop Store's Music Memorabilia Live auction. The lots include costumes, instruments, and photos. The pieces of music history hit the auction block in a sale valued at nearly $3 million Canadian. A promotional poster for that album, John Lennon and Yoko Ono's final collaborative work, Double Fantasy, signed by the Beatle on the day he died in 1980. That could be worth up to 220 grand. That gold microphone used by Freddie Mercury, also on the list. It's valued at up to 100 grand. The auction happens a week from tomorrow. some really interesting items. If you are a music fan, you might want to check that out. I know Bruce Frisco would be interested if there's anything from Elvis. That's our look at the day here at home. He'll be on this desk at 11:30. The web and the app have our updates. See you tomorrow. Good night.
CTV News, the Maritime's #1 newscast. Watch live on Crave.